I'm here with URI legend, all-time blocks leader, one of the best big man, if not the best big man, to play for the University of Rhode Island, Kenny Green.
Green on Cycling. They seal up Cycling with a little double team collapsing, so Thompson takes it, and it's blocked by Green. Great defensive play on
the factor. Mergensina here to reserve Kenny Green for the jam position. Foster almost lost it, but he gets it to screen. Here's Murdoch with a lane jumper. It's too hard. Kicks out. Foster's there for the foul, and it's rejected by Green.
He might have been right inside the net on that one. It's difficult to tell.
Knocked away. Green will key the inbound.
So I'm right below, my older brothers, I say Kenny Green, they're like, this is my man. That's a legend. I grew up with the Mobley and Wheeler, right?
Yeah,
I was born in '86, so I was in diapers when you were blocking shots. But what was it like playing with Garrick and Owens and kind of fitting in with them? I can imagine gave you a little bit more space to roam around when you have two guards like that.
You know what? It was rather easy. They were two very vocal guards. If you weren't doing what you were supposed to do, they let you know right then and there. Mm-hmm. But they were also two very good captains where they were always lifting up a player who maybe somebody was having a bad game, and they're the first ones there patting you on the butt, talking about, don't worry about it. Next game, we'll be all right. You'll be all right. So they were two guys who gave everybody a lot of confidence. But for me, it was easy because they were so good that a lot of the attention was always set on those two. Yeah. So it made it a little bit easier for me kind of to roam a little bit and, stay open and get open and stuff like that. But when I see the comparisons with the '98 team and our team, and everybody talks about Mobley and Wheeler, I say to him, I would love at both teams' prime to watch those four guards go at it. I said that would be, for me, that would just be a hell of a game to watch because for me, I'm biased because I played with Carlton and Tommy, and I tell everybody, oh, no, they had no chance. Yeah. Coutinho and Tyson had no chance. But, watching games of Coutinho and Tyson during their heyday, I think it would have been something special to watch.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I just recently went and kind of watched the Missouri game, which I'll kind of put up some highlights in a second, and then also the Syracuse game. And I was even looking at, the stat sheet of the Syracuse game. And it was Garrick 29, Owens 25, 12 rebounds. I mean, they lit it up. And that's against a Syracuse team that has, I think 3 or 4 future, NBA players on that squad.
And they were, I think at that time, they were ranked number 2 or number 3 in the country. Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, because I believe at that time, Temple was ranked number 1. And I think Syracuse, or it was vice versa, or whatever, but they were in the top 5 ranking in the country at that time. So, yeah. To see and to watch Tommy and Silk do what they did against that team, I was just as much of a fan as the people sitting up in the stands watching these guys do what they do, and it was just unbelievable watching them.
Yeah, no, and I start clicking for you guys as a team, knowing okay, we got something special here.
Honestly, it was probably the first Temple game. When we played Temple at home in Keeney. It was a big brawl during the game. And to literally watch the team just come together and everybody have everybody's back. I mean, legitimately, Ramon Rivas knocks out Silk's tooth. Who knows if it was on purpose or if it was an accident. I actually played with Ramon overseas for 5 years. No. And the first thing I asked him when I saw him was, did you do that on purpose? And he just smiled at me. But to watch our whole team literally come to the aid of one of our own players, at that point in time, I think that's when it really clicked that and it had nothing to do with basketball. Honestly, it had nothing to do with basketball. It just had to do with the camaraderie that this team had with each other.
The game between Rhode Island and Missouri played today, and this one really in Chapel Hill gave us a good idea that URI could be a factor. Mergen Cena here to reserve Kenny Green for the Jam. Green had 14 off the bench. Derek Chivas, though, the Band-Aid man. Byron Irvin with a rejection on Carlton Owens. Chivas puts it through. Tigers up by a deuce of the half. Now, Chivas at 35 on the game gets past Cena here. But it really was a one-man show for Missouri, that one man being Derek Chivas. The Rams were clicking on all cylinders. Carlton Owens picks it away from Byron Irvin. Still, Owens had 25 on the day. And then Tom Garrick heated up. Did he ever in the second half? Pushes aside Irvin and sticks the J. Garrick had 29 points, 25 of those in the second half. That's the game clock with the Rams up by 7. Garrick with a major basket. The final 87-80. First win ever in the tournament for Rhode Island. The third straight tournament time that Missouri has gone out in the first round. Garrick had 29 points, as we said, most of those in the second half. He was the hero of today's game.
So just, kind of watching that, I think the only negative about that game, again, who was guarding Chivas?
Everybody.
No, you dropped 35. Not a bad game.
You know what? Nate, he was that good. I mean, everybody took a shot at the guy. Everybody took a shot at him, and it was just nothing. So, and I remember this as it was yesterday. Coach Pinder said, I don't care if he gets 50. Nobody else is going to beat us.
Yeah.
Glass slipper fits. Today, the unheralded Rams from Rhode Island take on the powerful Syracuse Orangemen as round 2 begins in this NCAA tournament. Rhode Island already has upset Missouri at the big 8. Syracuse battled its way through North Carolina A&T, and now they come together in this sub-regional matchup. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Brett Musburger along with Billy Packer. Well, Billy, yesterday in Indiana, the defending champions shocked by Richmond. Now Syracuse moves center stage. They lost the title a year ago. This has been such an unpredictable season. Who knows what will happen now on this Saturday and Sunday? Billy, we know Syracuse. We're so familiar with them. Probably so is the audience. But what about these Rams of Rhode Island? What to expect here?
Well, Brent, we always say to do well in the NCAA tournament, you've got to have a great backcourt. And Rhode Island thinks they have the best backcourt in the United States with Garrick and Owen. They played exceptionally well throughout the course of their careers, did well in the NCAA tournament, and could lead them today.
And so, Syracuse game. What was the game plan going into that? So obviously Syracuse, I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think they were a finalist the year before, right? And they got, like I said, 3 or 4 NBA players, Sherman Douglas, Coleman, I'm missing someone.
Ronnie Cycli.
What was it like? So obviously now this is kind of the true, you got little Rhode Island, big time Syracuse here. What was the game plan going into that, and what was the confidence level?
It was basically the same, and Pinder's really reiterated the same thing. Just go out and play our basketball. Don't worry about who they are, what they are, because I think he understood with our team that we didn't care who we were playing against. Mm-hmm. We really felt that we can play with anybody and we could beat anybody, and he fed into that. And he constantly pushed that narrative throughout the whole year. It doesn't make a difference who we're playing against. We're that good, and we can play with anybody. So for me personally, because I knew Derek personally, Coleman, we had played numerous summers in the Record League in New York against each other and with each other. So I knew him personally. I knew his game personally. We knew each other personally. So there was no fear. There was no intimidation. We didn't look at it going into the game that if we beat them, it was going to be an upset, because our mindset was we're supposed to beat them. We're that good. And we took that mentality into the game.
Well, I was going to ask you about Coleman. So I guess, since you're a good friend with him, because I was looking at some of that footage and it looked like, I would say, I know he probably didn't want to foul out, but based on that game, I think he was kind of tired of you. You did work against him. What was your, What worked? What clicked that game for you? I mean, you had 23 points, 6 rebounds. You were kind of the reason he, one of the main reasons he fouled out. But what was your what was special about the performance?
Honestly, it was because I knew that if we lost to him and I had a bad game, that he was going to talk so much junk to me.
Yeah.
The best story with Derek is, so when we came out of school, we ended up going to combine together. And he was in the room next to mine. And legitimately, he stayed in my room the whole time because he was the consensus #1 pick. He knew that he was going to be the #1 pick. So he legitimately told them, he wants a room to himself. And they gave him a room to himself. But he stayed in my room the whole time. And all he could talk about was that game.
Yeah.
I can't believe you guys beat us. I can't believe you fouled me out. I can't believe all this. I was like, yo, D, it is what it is. It's over with. So get over it. He was like, no, that was the year we were supposed to win it all because we had just came back from going to the finals the year before or whatever. And we were supposed to win it all that year and all that. He said, and we let a team that we had never heard of. I don't even know what Rhode Island is, he was saying. He's like,
of course.
And stuff. So I was like, it is what it is. But I mean, and I think that's what happens to a lot of teams when they end up playing against, at that time. Now I don't know, but at that time when they ended up playing against mid-major schools,
yeah,
they felt that they were a little bit more superior because they were the 5-star kids. They were the kids that were at, the Big East, Big Ten, ACC school, stuff like that. So they were in their mindset, they were that much better than us. So I think that really affected, and that's what hurt a lot of big schools when they got into the tournament playing against mid-major schools.
Yeah, I have actually a clip I feel like probably was a pretty big momentum swing during that game. I think there was about like 4 minutes left.
They seal up cycling, we're moving to double team, collapsing. So Thompson takes it, and it's blocked by Green. Great defensive play underneath.
You know what was so great about that play? He was guarding cycling and came over to help. Now Green seems a little tired. There's the three. They got it.
And Garrick, I could tell there he was feeling himself there. I think it started setting in. That block. I mean, I know if they make that bucket, they're up by 1. Instead, you go back down, they're up by 4. But I know obviously that's that's a big part of your legacy. I would say obviously your block shots led Rhode Island history. I know in 89, 90, you led the NCAA in blocks. Telling you things you obviously you already know, but is that all instinct for you?
It was. But what a lot of people don't get, and what a lot of people, and I watch a lot of these kids today, and especially if we talk about the Mitchell twins, when they block a shot, I mean, they block a shot with aggression. Mm-hmm. And they're trying to block the shot out of bounds into the stands, stuff like that. And my whole mentality when I blocked the shot was I try to block the shot, but I try to block it to myself. So we maintain the ball.
Yeah.
So, and I watch these kids today, and I'm watching these kids, they want to block the shot into the crowd and then yell and scream at whoever they shot. I'm like, dude, but they get the ball back.
Yeah. I
don't get it. I'm like, so what's the point of blocking the shot? I mean, then now they've got another chance to score again against you. Block the shot, keep the ball in play, get the shot, get the block yourself, and now you have possession of the ball. So for me, it was just instinct. It didn't hurt that I had long arms, and I just had really good timing. But having that record, I was really rooting for Hassan Martin.
Yeah.
The year, because he was right up my rear end. He was coming. I was rooting for him, and I had gone to a couple games, and I told him, I said, listen, it's there for taking, go get it. It's there. Records are meant to be broken, and I would rather have nobody break it except for someone like you, such a nice kid and just a hard worker. So I was really rooting for him. And then when he fell short, he legitimately called me, and he was like, I fell short. I was like, it is what it is. So,
and you were okay with it.
I was okay with it at that point.
That's always good when you want it to happen. And like I said, you would be happy, but then it doesn't, and you know, you're still up. You're still at So yeah, so I mean, and back to the the end of that game. I mean, what was that? So what was that locker room like? I mean, I know I'll show the clip a little later. I'll put it on the video, but they had a shot at the end. That was in and out at the end,
and it was close. It was a close shot. It wasn't as if it was just a air ball or something like that. It was a close shot.
Yeah.
But our reaction when we got in the locker room, and it's the weirdest thing, there was no celebration. There was no jumping around. There was no yelling, screaming. Penders came in and said, we got work to do. We got Duke next.
Yeah.
We got to prepare for Duke. That was it. I mean, and it's weird because you would think beating a perennial powerhouse like Syracuse in the tournament, that there would be so much jubilation and so much excitement in the locker room. I mean, our locker room was a normal locker room because we really felt like we were supposed to win. As weird as that sounds, we really felt like we were supposed to win that game.
Well, and it means
so for us.
No, go ahead.
For us, it was another day. It was just another day. We beat another team, and that's how we honestly looked at it.
Yeah. They had a shot at the end. That was in and out at the end,
and it was close. It was a close shot. It wasn't as if it was just a air ball or something like that. It was a close shot. But our reaction when we got in the locker room, and it's the weirdest thing, there was no celebration. There was no jumping around. There was no yelling, screaming. Penders came in and said, we got work to do. We got Duke next.
Yeah.
We got to prepare for Duke. That was it. I mean, and it's weird because you would think beating a perennial powerhouse like Syracuse in the tournament, that there would be so much jubilation and so much excitement in the locker room. I mean, our locker room was a normal locker room because we really felt like we were supposed to win. As weird as that sounds, we really felt like we were supposed to win that game.
Well, and it means
so for us.
No, go ahead.
For us, it was another day. It was just another day. We beat another team, and that's how we honestly looked at it.
Yeah, well, it makes sense. I mean, you guys were, you won the game. You guys were that good. And especially that Syracuse game. Like I said, I think at almost every position you guys dominated. I mean, absolutely dominated. Going into the Duke game. Obviously, that's one point away from the Elite Eight. Is there anything in that game you look back on that you say
that game hurt?
Yeah,
that game hurt.
Oh.
That was another game that we honestly believed and we knew that we could win. What hurt us was the beginning of the game, Tommy got in foul trouble. And that kind of took us out of our rhythm. Mm-hmm. I think he ended up having like 3 fouls in the first half. So I think he might have played 10 minutes in the first half. So that kind of took us out of our rhythm, but we still played well. We were used to playing without somebody, so it didn't really affect us that much, but it did affect us because, I mean, he was our team leading scorer. I think he was. I don't think him and Silk were that far away from each other. So, but to have those two on the floor at just about at all times just made things a lot easier for everybody else. So when he went out, we had the mentality, next man up. You've got to do what you have to do. And we did. I mean, we fought and we clawed in that game. I've never been a person or a player to criticize referees or anything like that, but that was one game that I said we kind of got a little home job. They kind of did stick it to us. I mean, there were a lot of questionable calls, especially in the second half of the game when either we could take the lead or we were making a run that literally took us out of it. So, but it is what it is. I mean, our whole mentality was we wanted to face Temple again. Temple had beaten us 3 games.
Yeah.
At home, their place, and then in the tournament, the championship tournament, they had beaten us. So we knew there was no way in the world that they were going to beat us a 4th time.
Yeah.
And so that was our whole goal, was to get to Temple again. And we just fell short by a point.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I know it's unbelievable run. And I was shocked. Like I said, looking back at it, the whole idea of playing Temple again, that really would have been fascinating. Cheney, speaking like, obviously you got to play against Cheney a bunch. Do you have any memories, stories of him? I mean, when I think of Atlantic 10, I think of him, to be quite honest.
One of the best people and greatest coaches I've ever met in my life. After every time I played against Temple, he would take me aside, if it was at URI or there. He would take me aside and give me pointers on what I need to work on and what I'm lacking in my game. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that was just something crazy, that an opposing coach would take an opposing player and literally sit down and have a 10-minute conversation with him about what he thinks I need to work on to make myself better. Yeah. And that always stood with me. That stood with me. And I think probably my first 3 years out of school, I legitimately stayed in touch with him. And we would just have conversations and stuff. And he's just an unbelievable guy. It was when he passed, it hurt me a lot when he passed, for somebody who wasn't my coach and never coached me, but in a way coached me. He was a special guy.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely Atlantic 10, I know there's some discussions about having Temple come back in. I mean, at this point though, I think the A10 can be the Atlantic 20. But I mean, Temple, it's getting a little crazy. But Temple, St. Joe's.
Well, with Loyola Chicago's coming in next year, I think.
Yeah, they're coming in.
That's going to be, that's going to be a great thing for the league. But I mean, I would love to see Temple, St. Joe's. When I was there, Penn State was there. Mm-hmm. I would love to see those teams come back in. But, they're all in conferences now where, frankly, I think I'm pretty sure that they're making more money, and so it'd be tough. And football, exactly.
That's one thing I'm all for improving different programs, but one thing I hope that URI continues to understand that their flagship program is basketball, and it is not football, and it will never be football.
I've had a conversation with Thor and some of the alumni about why aren't there any retired numbers besides Michelle Williams. And God rest her soul, she deserves it for what she did for women's basketball in her day. And then I don't know who the other two are.
Frank Keeney.
Frank Keeney and whoever else. But I'm like, well, that's what you guys don't. I said, what you guys don't get is that when a kid comes on this campus and walks into that gym, if he's a 4-star recruit, a 3-star recruit, whatever else, and he's got other schools that he's actually looking at, and he walks into that gym and he looks up into the rafters and he sees 3 jerseys retired, 3 names retired. And I think the latest one was Michelle Williams. I think it was 70-something.
Yeah.
A kid's going to say to himself, nobody else went to this school.
Yeah.
So if I break every record in here, my name's not going to be up there in the rafters. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, how much does it cost you to put a jersey up into the rafters? It can't be more than $100.
No, not at all. And that's one of the big things, to be honest, that, is frustrating. I can't imagine as an alum, as a elite member of the program who, should have their jersey up there. I agree wholeheartedly, especially in this era of college basketball with transfers and everything else. The one thing I think you can sell, or you have to sell to a recruit coming in, those 3 of the 4-star recruits that come in and looking at URI, if they're a 4-star recruit looking at URI and they're looking at other programs, they might be bigger names, right? But you see the Ryan Center, you have an opportunity to build a legacy.
Yeah.
That I never understood. And just to build momentum for the program. I mean, if we started retiring numbers over the next 10 years, people are waiting for that. Everyone I talk to is like, why is that happening? Why isn't it happening?
The excuse I got was, and maybe a better word than excuses, the reasoning I got from Thor was, how do we decide? I told him, I said, listen, honestly, and this is the God's honest truth, I can care less if my jersey name, whatever is up there. I said, but let me explain something to you. The all-time leading scorer, whose record hasn't been broken, I mean, who hasn't lost that position since, 88 when he left, Carlton Owens. I said, if anything, that should be the first person that you put up there. Yeah. I said, he's the all-time leading scorer at the school. Mm-hmm. I said, you do him, you do maybe somebody from the 98 team, and then you put together a committee and let a committee choose who should go next, whatever else. I said, but it's got to be something. I said, I guarantee you're losing out on a lot of players just because of that reason. I said, it might seem silly to you. It might not make a lot of sense to you. I said, but as an athlete, as a player, to walk into a gym and see a bunch of jerseys or a bunch of names retired up there, in your mind as a kid, you're saying, hey, that's what I'm going to work toward. Mm-hmm. So I can bring my kids back and show my kids, there's dad's number, there's dad's name up in the rafters. Definitely. But I mean, the answer I got was, well, how do we decide? We've been talking about it. I'm like, what is there to talk about?
You said, I don't buy that excuse either of, who's going to be first. Like you said, you start with someone, right? Then there's some hope, because once you see what comes out of that night, just that night alone in the buildup, right? You're going to say, we need to do 2 of these, every single year, or 1 each year, because there's plenty of people, including yourself. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter who, but that's going to build so much momentum for the program. And I definitely, obviously, because I know you're with the program, that's obviously the hope is your number. And like I said, that team will be lifted up in the rafters. For me personally, on the record, for me, I have always got the sense, especially over the last 10 years, that there has to be some sort of disconnect that has clearly started from the university's end. And I've heard the argument, and like I said, you don't need to comment on that, obviously, but I've heard the argument that, well, what if it has to do with how much money is being put into it, or are they donating, or any kind of conversation like that. You, the players, especially back then, everything that we see now, you guys have built that. The players don't owe anything to the university, right? The university owes everything to the players, especially players, right? I mean, now it's a little different. Players can make money, but that wasn't the case, right? So, so it's, it's frustrating as a fan. It's frustrating as someone who grew up watching you guys. And again, you look in there and you say, how could this be? And it's a question, like I said, that I think personally needs to be answered, that I think no one has answered yet. The AD hasn't answered, any president hasn't answered. There's never been a legitimate answer to that question of why aren't numbers up there, right? And like I said, I just see no commemorating of past teams at all. And that's, I can't understand it at all. But they do, they do have new gray Ocean State jerseys this year, Kenny.
That everybody hates.
Lord have mercy. I'm like, what? Just bring back any old jersey. You know what I mean? But an Ocean State gray jersey, that money right there, you could have put, two names in the red.